Today I'm going to be sharing inspiration using the Hero Arts November 2025 subscriptions. Then I'm going to walk you through how I created these two cards using the card kit for November 2025. And this all has a fun reading theme to it. Then, if you love everything in here, there is the whole studio that you can purchase. It includes all of the club subscriptions, plus there is a bonus item, which I will share that with you. So you'll get the bonus item when you sign up for the whole studio. I'm going to have links down below in the video description and over on my blog if you're interested in anything that I'm showing today. Now, first, let's take a look at some of the club subscriptions. This one is the layering stencil. I absolutely love creating with the layering stencil. This one happens to be a 4-piece stencil that once it's all lined up, it creates this entire panel of books on a shelf. Now, this card I recreated over on the Hero Arts YouTube channel, so you can visit that there if you want to see how this came together. I also brought in additional elements from the Fancy Die of the Month. So that's where I got the bookworm title, sentiment, and then also the actual little bookworm himself, which I will be using on one of my cards today. Now, since I have the fancy die out, I'm going to show you some additional elements you could create, which are these books. Next, we'll take a look at the clear stamp and die, so the Stampin' Cut of the Month, and then also the cling background. So I actually combined these two together to create a card, and I did it very clean and simple. You can make each of those images its own focal point, or you can combine all of them on the front of your card project. So now that I showed you the individual subscriptions, let's take a look at the free one that you get. So this is a smaller stamp set, but what it does is create kind of a door hanger, or you could even use it as a bookmark. You do have coordinating dies for that. So this is the free item you get if you sign up for the whole studio. The card kit this month is also a reading theme, and I love the die set that's included in here. We're going to use that today. There's also a stamp set that has like the binding on the book, and then there's cardstock, there's hero wax, and an extra die set. So let's jump in and start creating. Here are the two stamp sets that are included in that card kit. You can see that some of the bindings actually have words on them. So that's how you would build your sentiment. And then we have additional sentiments that go along with it. This is the die set that I fell in love with. So one die creates the entire stack of books, and then the other piece is individual pieces where you can customize your colors for the books. The additional die set in there is where somebody would be holding a book reading, and then you have your coordinating dies for these sentiments. The first thing I did is I die cut out that complete stack of books. It's all one piece out of white cardstock. So that's what I'm going to layer on top of. Then I had gone through and die cut out each individual book in a fun color assortment. So this is all Spellbinders cardstock. I think there's Coral, Bellini, Rainforest, Orchid, Mulberry, and then I was repeating the colors. So I will have all of those links down below in the video description to the exact cardstock that I used. Now, what I was envisioning is I wanted the binding on the edge to be embossed. I wanted it to be shiny. I could have gone really rustic, but I decided to just heat emboss these different patterns on the binding of the books. So I have a sticky mat in my Misti, and I placed my piece of cardstock down to hold that in place. I prepped the cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to ink up the image with embossing ink, and I'm going to sprinkle on gold embossing powder and then melt that. And I'm going to do this step for every one of the individual books. It does seem a little bit time consuming, but when it's my focal point, it's really no different than taking the time to ink blend something or color in an image. So I will repeat that just using the sticky mat to kind of hold those individual pieces in place. And then I am using my tweezers to hold all of those so that I don't burn my fingers. And then in between, I will add in the sentiment so that I'll have that sentiment kind of cascading down in that line of books. So once I had all of those designs heat embossed, then I can bring my main piece in that I'm going to add all of these to. I started at the bottom and worked my way up, and I'm going to just build up that stack of books in this fun assortment of colors. And I love how they give different angles of the book so you can see kind of the pages in the inside. Now, obviously, these are not vintage books because the pages on the inside are bright white, but I think this would be really fun to turn into a vintage project and use some more mixed media techniques with it. So that'll build up the stack of books. And then what I want to do is kind of decorate or embellish it a little bit. So I'm using the other die set that has the kind of open book reading on there. And there's these little leaves and flowers. And there's also center of the flowers on there too. I die cut out the leaves from Rainforest and Fern Cardstock, and I'm tucking them in behind my stack of books. And I'll also add some small white flowers. Now, I didn't add any centers to the flowers, but you could die cut out the circles from that die set to add the centers, or even use some small embellishments for that. I just love how all of this came together. And I do have a bookworm in my life that I think would really appreciate something like this. So this month's clubs are really kind of hitting home for me. Now, I do want to add this cute little bookworm up there. I think I used maybe Seaside Cardstock for it. I tried using some leftover ink on my blending brush to add a little bit of dimension at the bottom, but I didn't have a lot of ink left. And then I did layer it twice, so I stacked it. And I'm adding the glasses and his eyes on there. Now, there actually is two pieces for the eyes, but I forgot about one of them. So I'm just going to add these centers with a black glaze pen. Then I'll go ahead and add a little bit of liquid glue to the bottom of the bookworm to attach him to my books. I added foam tape behind all of my stacked books and also the bookworm. And then I'm adding this onto a piece, I believe it was Seaside Cardstock, cut to 4¼ by 5½. So it's a clean and simple background, but I love all of those stacked books on there. Now I'm going to move on to working on my second card. So I did speed this up because it is a lot of gluing, but I wanted you to be able to see how all of this lines up. So I am using a gold metallic cardstock for this layer that kind of goes on the front of the books. So the book is open. It's going to look like somebody is kind of got their nose in a book reading. There are embossed lines on that book cover so that you can see where to line up those outlines and also the binding of the book. Now, as I was putting this together, I am going to use some elements from the kit. So I am going to decorate the front of the book with one of the leaves and the flower. But if you have some smaller die images in your collection, you could maybe customize that book. So if there's a certain theme that somebody likes to read, you could customize the front of the book with that theme. Here I'm just finishing up adding the leaves and the flowers to the front of that for now. And then we have the sleeves. So there's two part to the arms and the sleeve. I also have the hands, and I am going to be waiting before attaching these to the book because I want to pop up the front of my card. And I want to make sure that I, for one, have the hands going in the right direction. You can see at the bottom of the hands that they're angled. So once you kind of line them up, you'll see how it angles down towards the bottom. I did go ahead, add the body behind the book. Then we have the top of the head that I'm placing kind of so it looks like they're, hidden in a book. There is a little hair piece there. So if somebody has long hair, you can tuck that off on the side. And now here is my finished piece. So it looks a little funny at first until you add the arms, but look towards the bottom of the arms where you can see it's angled, and that'll help you figure out how to line it up. But before I attach that, I need to create my background for my window. Now, again, I sped this up. I am using the layering stencil of the month for November 2025, and I am doing a tone-on-tone look. I really loved the layering of the books, but I didn't want it to take away from the actual focal point. So I am just quickly going through and eyeballing it to line up my stencil. But the stencil does have registration squares in the corners to help with that perfect alignment. My tone-on-tone, I believe I'll have to check on the cardstock that I'm using, but I did use Paradise and Bermuda ink from Hero Arts. I just kind of varied the pressure that I was applying so that I could get some lighter and darker looks to it. And the cardstock that I'm using, I just checked, is Waterfall Cardstock. So once I have my background done, I brought it over to my splat box. I have a little bit of white acrylic spray down on my glass mat that I mixed with a drop of water, and I'm adding some splatters to the background just for some added interest. While my splatters are drying, I'm going to stamp out my sentiments. So I'm using that smaller stamp set with all of the sayings on there from the card kit, and I am just stamping this in black ink. There is a coordinating die to die cut out both of these sentiments. So I line that up and run that through the die cut machine. And I also die cut it out a couple more times so that I can stack my sentiments. So the sentiment reads, "If you need me, I'll be reading." Now, after that's done, I'm going to create my window. I am using one of the dies from the Nested Arches die and die cutting that out of some white cardstock. So now I have this really nice open space, but it's kind of contained so that I can try and pull your eye in to the center point, which is going to be the person reading, and then we'll have the sentiments at the top and the bottom. So I started out by placing my person down in there before attaching the window because the window is going to overlap. I added some thin foam tape behind my frame and I'm placing that over the top. So you can see that the frame is kind of covering up the bottom there. So it looks pretty seamless. I also added foam tape behind the arms and then I can position them right over the cover there. So they're just kind of barely overhanging that window there, but popped up enough so that they are going to be flush with the rest of the card. My sentiment is already stacked, so it has dimension. I'm going to add the first part of that sentiment up towards the top. And then my second sentiment, the one that says I'll be reading, that one I'm going to put kind of right over the arms. To do that, I'm going to add a small piece of foam tape right in the center and then liquid glue on the right and left hand side. And that's going to finish up my second card. So here are both of those cards now done. I love this card kit. So if you have somebody that loves to read and get lost in books, this is going to be the perfect time to create cards for them. I think they'll get a nice smile out of it. All of these supplies I used today will be linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. I hope you enjoyed today's inspiration using the Hero Arts November 2025 Club subscriptions. Thanks for joining.